Hey Ricardo. Hey everyone.
Hey Josh, let's give it a few more minutes for more folks to join.
My video working here. I just changed computers and it's all going a bit haywire.
Okay. Where are you located?
Today I'm uh, in Germany. It's actually warming up for a change, which is nice after a very long and cold and horrible winter. So
Let me show you your camera looks like.
yeah, I'm fighting with this. It doesn't seem to like my camera at all. Ricardo was meaning to bump into you there at KubeCon in the UK. The last day, I know you had some session and I just never made it round. I got pulled into something with work and we didn't manage to catch up, unfortunately. Now it's working. Second try.
All right, I think we can get started. There's some folks trickle in gradually. So yeah, that's good. Let's do a round of hellos. Hi, I'm Ricardo. I'm one of the leads here. I'm also shadow in the CNCF DOC, and I work full time at Snowflake. Happy to have everyone here, and yeah, let's move on to the next person, Raghu.
Yeah, this is Raghu Shankar. I'm an entrepreneur looking at researching this topic of cloud native and AI, and eager to see how I can learn and contribute into this forum.
Great, thanks for being here, Ron.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good evening. This is Ron. I'm a volunteer around here and I work at RXM. Hello again, everybody.
Hey, thanks, Ron. Nina.
Yeah. Hello everyone. I'm Nina. I work at Solo doing AI gateway features. Hi everyone. Nice to meet everyone who's new.
Nice to see you, Nina. Uh, Josh.
Hi everyone. I think my audio is fixed now. Josh Halley, I work for Cisco. Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Josh. Chris Burns. Burns.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just connected my AirPods for this Mac for the first time, so I just had to check. Yeah, my name's Chris. I work for Stacklot, supply chain security company traditionally, but we're kind of doing some stuff in the AI space now. So yeah, I'm attending today just to see what's going to be talked about. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. Adol?
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Adam Zaluk. I've been in this working group for a while. I'm also one of the co-leads of the working group. So I'm a product manager, working for Red Hat, my day job, but looking at all things AI in my day job and outside.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. Marius?
Hi, this is Marius Sabath, IBM Research. I'm just exploring options here in that space of what you guys work on. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marius. Yeah, finally, Ali.
Hey guys, I'm Ali. I work at BlackRock in Cloud Native Platform. Just curious about the new developments in AI space, so I've been joining this group for a while. Thanks.
Glad to see you again. Finally, we have Karan's note taker, but that's just kidding, right? So it's not the actual one. Okay, so let's get started with some working group updates. So the CNCF is actually doing a restructure that I think a lot of you are familiar with the tags. So previously, I think there were like 8 tags, and then consolidating these tags to 8 tags. And with that, they're also changing the naming around working groups. So they're actually renaming primarily, I think, all these working groups into initiatives. So yeah, so that's initiative. So some of them will be initiatives, and some of them will be sub projects, right? There is going to be some transition period, but essentially, from the operations point of view, I think this group will remain the same. So I think it's just kind of like a change in terms of naming, in terms of maybe reporting structure, like how we work together with the CNCF TOC. But other than that, I mean, in terms of like the work that folks are doing here, I think it will remain very much the same. Uh, any questions about that?
I think there was like a thread in the channel about the structure of the meeting. So instead of doing the meeting notes, we'd walk the GitHub board. Is that the case, or are we still going to keep like a meeting note?
Yeah, for now, I think we'll have these meeting notes, but I think I think it's easier to kind of just write them down on the doc, but we can publish those on GitHub afterwards, right? So I think um I'm not really sure if it makes sense to kind of be on GitHub and just type in the notes that way. I mean, we could try that as well, but uh, um, I think I would leave it up to the folks here and what they think.
If you have a demo, would that go like as a GitHub issue, or like is that just like a note in the recap of the meeting, or like?
What you're talking
So
about
like
the
if
GitHub?
somebody wanted to like present a demo, would we like create an issue like as a proposal to present, or like how would that work?
They haven't talked about that, or we haven't
Okay.
in the TOC haven't talked about exactly about like presentations. So yeah, I think for now, what we can do is, I mean, some of these repos might change. So I think the tag runtime is rolling into tag workloads foundation, and we can actually create an issue there, like, oh, we're gonna have a presentation in this working group or something like that, right? So uh, just like we have this bore here. This is under tag runtime. Oh, sorry. Wait, this is under
Yeah,
prod.
it's tag runtime. If you go to tag runtime, you're gonna find the projects.
Yeah, I suppose but this specific one is under CNCF now, or I think, or
Someone moved it. Looks like I didn't.
okay, they moved it. Okay, great. So, but if you see the issues are actually in tag runtime, right? So, so I think we can open these issues in the new repo. I don't think it has been created yet, so someone can
Yeah.
start.
So Nina, what is the goal? Is your goal like, so for example, I think you did present the demo like last time, you
Yeah.
added what you want to present and then you presented it. Was that workflow
Yeah, so that made sense for me. I just like in the new workflow, if we walk a project board, like I don't I think it feels a little silly creating a GitHub issue for it, but we could just create like doing the project board.
Whatever is easier, I think also whatever is going to be this thing for all the sub projects in that new space. I think so. Some folks from the TOC are making a write up about all these things that need a process, but one of these things are the writing of the long white papers, for example, how to write and divide white papers and so on. I have seen less comments on demos are like the nitty-gritties. Like I think this is one of the nitty-gritties that however works and easiest for the group should work, unless someone like have a very strong opinion that I don't yet know about, then it will pop up as a process as part of that. But I have not seen anything when I talk to the folks like who are doing this write up for the changing of the names and so on.
Yeah, and I don't think you need to be super strict about it. So, I mean, if you want to present something, just bring it up. I think for planning point of view, um, I don't know, it might be easy to just kind of write it on a doc than a GitHub issue, but yeah. So, yeah, I think when things start to get more finalized, I think we can adjust, right? So,
Yeah,
uh,
I guess the deal there is like we're gonna work this out among this group to see what makes most sense and how to communicate that best. And so if even if it means like filing an issue, we probably like centralize in a document that is easy for folks to kind of like put there, and then we're gonna create an issue for everyone who wants to present, just if we have to have a process.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like internally, we have a similar process where we walk the project board, and then we have like a parking lot where we do demos, and people can drop if they're not interested. But yeah, I guess to recap, we're like keeping the meeting notes for now. So like we'll still have like the attendance and like the basic agenda, and if we want to present something, we'll just put like our name down and announce
Yeah.
in the chat.
Yep. Sounds good. All right. Any other questions about that?
With the existing project board, are we looking to port those items to a new board once it becomes available, or we're just let them complete out in their current board, or has that been decided?
Sorry, you were kind of breaking up a little bit. Can you repeat?
Sorry, so the items which exist on the current board, which you were showing before, do we close them out on that board and let them run their course, or do the items get ported across to the new board once it's available with the new structure?
Yeah, I think the idea is just to port all of these items to the new board, right? Because I mean, I guess we don't have to port the ones that are done, but at least we port the ones that are in the backlog and the one in progress. Yeah, so
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but if you have an idea or want to create an issue, so these things are gonna bulk move, so it's not like selectively moving whatever. So whatever the new process is gonna bulk move there. So you can create this stuff here so that when it gets moved with everything else, right? So if you have an idea now where you want to contribute an issue or like in general.
yeah. And the point is like, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know. Yeah, so my question maybe was on the same lines as some other. So Ricardo, I think I saw your blog, I think before the Cloud Native Europe, about all the topics that are being worked on or should be worked on, right? The model context protocol or cloud native vector databases and Llama Stack and other things. I'm wondering where would those, I mean, would there be this forum or a rehash of this, repurposing of this forum or that board? What is that going to be the new entity that's going to tackle these meaty topics that are coming up? Especially around cloud native and AI is like a very kind of
It'll be this
yeah.
forum. It'll be
Okay.
this. Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we're kind of I just feel like in a holding pattern now, like we're not jumping in and doing anything, right? We're just kind of, are we in a holding pattern now? Or are we just going to take some of these things and start working on them?
No, we're not in any holding pattern in terms of the work, so the initiatives can continue going. So we don't want to, block anything. So if anything, if you have an idea, just kind of bring it up, and then we'll adjust as the new structure comes in, right?
Okay. All right. Thanks.
It doesn't make sense to block.
Oh, no, I was like, no, I agree, totally agree with it. But I was just, since this whole thing about reboot is coming in, and is it an initiative, is it a sub project, and all these things,
Yeah.
chairs need to be elected, etc., etc. I just
The
want
only
to get a
time that
sense of,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the only time that the TOC actually blocks stuff is right before KubeCon, and after KubeCon they have a KubeCon freeze, but that's related to projects. So like due diligence or project evaluations, open source projects, and then that's when it happens. But other than that, initiatives can continue going. Right?
Okay. No, I think I said my interest is to just see what are all the thoughts coming in, and any that, like all the things, like,
Yeah.
MCP servers and vector databases and Knative, whatever the list of topics that you had. I'm very curious to see what kind of discussions are happening out there, and what I can learn, and
Yeah.
that's
They
yeah.
they are talking about creating this thing called community groups. So I'm let's see how that evolves too, because supposedly community groups are more about like discussions, whereas like these groups are more about like you have a time-bound item, right? Like a white paper, right? So how long are we thinking about working on this, or and maybe even working on setting up like working sessions for some of these, right? But that's still kind of like quite not happening yet. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that.
Okay. Okay, I loved that one of the talks that we had about MCP server a few weeks back, the Homes GPT and all that. And now my question is, okay, are we going to build on it, or is it just going to be something which just comes once and that's it, and we don't talk about it? I mean, that's
So
kind of,
Maybe we can move on to the next item. So like I see
sorry.
the initiative. So Adol, maybe you can kind of like chime in on the MCP server stuff.
yeah, so if there is an issue that I opened that it has ongoing discussion, like it's fresh really, like the last comment was 3 days back or 2 days back. Let me try and find that. And to summarize, let me find that. It's in the tag runtime issues. Yeah, so this is the one. I just put it in the chat. I also put it in the I'll put it in the agenda as well, but this is the one. And then let me put it. Yeah. So basically there's a lot of interest in this one, and there are other folks, other groups. For example, SIG Architecture is looking at that. They also have a similar proposal for like having a place to experiment with MCP server for Kubernetes. And I see like the future of this is there will be a potential place that could be in the CNCF where there will be a reference implementation for the things that we describe here. Like for Kubernetes, there'll be a reference implementation. For other working groups or other tags, potentially also the same will happen. But what I would see, what I'm seeing will happen near term is like creation of the space where people will contribute that reference implementation. I'm proposing one thing here, but at least like the proposal, the gist of it is that we need a place where the community maintains that reference implementation. Where it lives is still like floating a bit, but there are discussions on this from SIG Architecture. In this, you see here like the folks from SIG Architecture are commenting on this. They also have reference. So follow the issue is basically what I would say. Yeah, and any update will be posted there, at least from our side.
Okay, thanks. And I mean, I'm assuming something similar might happen for other topics also, that is like kind of intersecting cloud native and AI, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's
So
a
the
lot of
charter of this group is like the intersection of cloud native and AI. So but that doesn't now, because everyone is basically working with AI. So that we try to be like that place where we route to these communities if we're not the sourcing community. But generally speaking, yeah, that's part of the charter of this group, is to be able to like meld cloud native and AI.
Cool.
Cool. Any other questions or thoughts or this? Okay, cool. So Adel, you like to go to some of the items here, or are there any items that are outstanding that you think are worth talking
Yeah.
about?
So I'd say like the most of the stuff on the backlog here are, I'd say, like still in the backlog. The ones that we want to really like figure out are the white papers for now. So we have 3 pending white papers right now. So we have scheduling, we have the security white paper, and we have the sustainability white paper. These are 3 papers that we've worked on. There are, as part of like changes, one of the main pain points that people have kind of like explained were like the papers were too long. So the problem is we start with the paper, people get motivated at the beginning, but then eventually like it kind of like cools down. So the length of the paper is maybe one factor. Other factors is like how long do we give for the paper to finish and ownership. So we're trying to explore how to make this process easier and simpler, potentially shortening out, like making the maximum length of a paper way shorter. So that will also reduce the time it takes. But generally, these are the pending items that what we have and what we want to like finalize. If folks are interested to take on any of the other initiatives that are in the board, whether it's blueprints or there has been like a summarizer effort that I think also like paused a little bit. So there's a lot of work here in the board to kind of like that kind of was started but then wasn't continued. So if folks are interested in taking ownership of these items, that would be great as well.
Yeah, so one thing or development with the white paper is I created this issue in the TOC repo and for the scheduling white paper. And basically the TOC is asking for a timeline. So I think we need to keep it time bound, and that's the important thing, right? So what happened is that this paper has been going on for over a year, but we haven't been able to kind of like trim it and make it publishable, right? So at this point, it's what we have to do is kind of trim it. I think it's way too long, and any additional items can be talked about in a different paper, or some of these items also change a lot. And one of the since this has been going for about a year, AI has changed so much in the last year. So the idea is just to kind of keep these time bound so that we keep creating artifacts or deliverables, right, in kind of like a shorter time span, and make them relevant, right, according to technology, because technology changes so fast. And now AI is also changing very fast.
Yeah. So it feels like this paper is similar to the other papers, like that needs to be broken down. So the problem we have here is that I think people find it a large barrier of entry getting into the paper and seeing it's too long. But feel free to kind of suggest if you have a proposal for like, hey, we can make this shorter and we can create these multiple papers. That also goes in the direction where we, anyways, will be recommending for newer papers. For the existing 3 papers, that's an ongoing problem. Like finishing. I would say the sustainable AI one is like the most, and then the security one. I say the sustainable one is very close to completion. It just needs some wrangling. The security white paper also is, I would say, close. It has been reviewed. I've got some feedback from other folks in the TOC that it's also somehow long. So exploring how to make that shorter also would be good, but it's closer to yeah. The farthest one is the scheduling white paper, which is like, has not been updated in a year and will need to be broken down. I'd say most of the topics in there are stay relevant and the same. There are some new things that happened in that year, but they're mostly relevant.
Yeah, so if
I
anyone,
guess with the,
go ahead, sorry.
I guess with the scheduling one, there was, given its life cycle, a lot of the contributors, who knows if they're still active and available for feedback. So I guess the question is with that one, how to take it forward. I think, as you mentioned, Adele, the scheduling and the sustainability and the security ones are sort of on their final path. They've got feedback and they're getting close to closing, but with the scheduling one, it's still got a lot of change revision in there if you look at all the comments. So I guess the question is, how can we quickly move forward to close it out?
I think one approach here is to divide it up, really. Like if we look at so we probably need to meet and divide the paper up into digestible pieces, into especially like do we need to talk about all of these things at the same time? Can we just divide it up and focus on publishing or shipping one piece? So how do we we need to look at the outline, we need to look at what pieces make sense as a containable thing that we can ship separately, and that hopefully will reduce the scope for someone who if we ask someone like who's interested in kind of reviewing this and kind of like help lead this, then this is a less barrier of entry than like when we give them someone like, hey, there's a 50 paper that we worked on, 50-page paper that we worked on, and it's basically just too much work for people who have a day job. So how do we adjust that into smaller pieces? I think is the immediate remedy that will help get unblock us.
With us, at least at Cisco, typically for a white paper, we cap at about 10, 15 pages.
That should be the maximum, yes.
Yeah.
So if anybody on the call wants to take on one of these, I think Deep is already working on a security white paper, and if anybody wants to shorten some of these and take that on, feel free to do it. I do have another idea about now. See, the space is actually fast moving, so I have an idea of another white paper to talk about cloud native agents, right? So for example, now because everybody's talking about agents, right? So that's something that we could work on. But if someone wants to take on that, feel free.
So Ricardo, I'm just putting in chat the document, which I wasn't writing a document on MCP, I was writing a document on Kubernetes standards for agentic AI. So I just put it in the chat here. And basically it's not looking at MCP or A to A or ACP or any of these protocols in depth. It's more around what are the best practices in the context of Kubernetes, containerization, information hiding, access to things like databases, observability, security, and that sort of domain there. So it's still early draft, right? And I just sort of brain dumped a bunch of stuff. It's still got a whole lot of lorem ipsum in there, but I sort of gave it a start, keen to sort of get.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, so something like we can expand this, but also keep it time limited. So we can also for this we can submit an issue on the TOC, and then we'll give it time bound, so like 3 months or something like that, right? So and also keep it limited, right? So I mean to 15 pages, 10 pages or something like that. Right?
Yeah, 10 pages. Let's target 10 pages or something. Let's build the Twitter for writing, like 150 characters. But yeah, for white papers.
Cool. All right, so I have another update on the model spec initiative. So let me see if I can find it. Model. I guess I can't find it right now, but like the idea is just create a OCI model spec. So folks in the community have been working on this for quite a while, and they're actually joining the GitHub CNCF organization. So if you're interested in working on defining the standards for how models get distributed using OCI format, please join the GitHub group, or you can join the discussion. And I think primarily on the GitHub right now, and there's also a Slack channel. Let me paste the Slack channel here. So give me a second. Okay, so yeah, so yeah, so there's a discussion about like how to use OCI with models. Any questions about that, or?
It actually can be part of also like the papers Josh is writing, like it's packaging AI artifacts in general. I think model spec is part of also that, and think this is, yeah, I feel like that agentic standard paper is a good umbrella also for these things if we want to write about those. Although, like, yeah, the limit of the 10 pages, so we have to be very precise.
There could be like a topic in the paper, for example.
Yeah.
Right? All right, I don't have anything else. It's 30 minutes, not 30 hours, but anybody else has anything else they'd like to talk about? We don't have any demos today. Anything that it's interesting to work on. I know there's a lot of conversation around MCP and OCI, and I don't know anything how you run, say, agents on top of Kubernetes. Anything that you'd like to talk about?
So one thing, Ricardo, which I'm interested in is there's a bunch of work happening in the OTel semantic convention group. So OpenTelemetry has a semantic convention working group, and there is a lot of work underway in the context of semantic conventions for AI. And if we're considering OTel being instrumented into essentially most of our containers to provide a level of explainability, how do we, how should we go about ensuring those efforts are properly signaled and included in the work which we're doing here?
Yeah, I think we need to probably engage with them. So yeah. So I just came across that too. Here, see.
So, hey, can I jump in here? I know a little bit, at least the old stuff here. So originally, this like many things was a slow roll to getting that effort going. And then it pivoted into kind of just metrics around what you would see like at a router level. Just because, people are like, well, what are the metrics of or traces of, AI that matter, right? So like anything, Rome wasn't built in a day. Yeah, we should definitely follow up again on what they're doing. But at least just historically, if they kind of continue down that same path, a lot of that was around anything through a router versus like anything like profiling and things internal or logging and things like that, which, you could pretty much use the standard hotel stuff. But yeah, having a standard on what that would look like is probably we need to hear from them.
Yeah, and I know the semantic convention activities. I was speaking with Severin Neumann, who is part of that OpenTelemetry group, and he was saying that they're trying to iterate through every possible portfolio under the sun to build in the right semantics. So it doesn't matter whether it's an HVAC system or anything for that matter, right? So they're really looking for contributions, but where it's really active at the moment is obviously in the AI space, where we're seeing significant contribution from Microsoft and OpenAI around the semantics. So it'll be interesting to sort of see how that links in, particularly if we're looking at OTel in the context of tracing the path of LLM execution or potentially prompt activities. It's being used in many of the systems today, like in Phoenix or other backends, which you're using for inference. But in terms of standardization, it's, I guess, something that the dust hasn't settled on that yet. So it'd be good to sort of understand if there are semantic conventions and standards, how we can make that happen so that we're not siloed in terms of the metrics, logs, and traces that it may exist with between different agentic platforms or in terms of the way that they export.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think this is an open meeting, so any folks can also join. So if anybody's interested, you can join and report back on the happenings, right? So
Okay.
I'm actually I have a coworker who's actually there, so also I could follow up and get some updates.
Okay. Thanks, Ricardo.
Yeah, no problem. Any other items before we give you 25 minutes back?
Hey, I got some free time now due to some changes. So Saturday, I will send out my proposal for the scheduling paper.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. Ron, do you want to talk about your update? I didn't know if you wanted to talk about your.
Yeah, sure. It's no big deal because I'm still here. but yeah, just for anyone who's here, just so there's no questions, I have stepped down from being a co-lead, largely just not just because of here, just in life in general, just trying to refinagle my schedule because apparently I can't say no to anything. So just trying to get it back under control. So I still plan on being around and hopefully just doing more of the doing and letting the big brains here guide me. So that's my intent.
I think you're muted.
I was saying, like, you know, so far I think you've done a lot of the big brains as well, Roland. So it's you know, it's, I know that we're still gonna be working, but I was hoping to do more big brains as well. But you can still do the big brains as well, right? So it's not
No. I want the little brain stuff. Let me do that.
yeah.
Yeah, so with that, there's an opening for a lead. So if anybody's interested, want to work on the initiatives that are happening here or want to lead some of these initiatives, feel free to voice it. I think you can, yeah, probably reach out to myself and Adel, right? So
Ricardo, can you rename my item there from MCP update to Kubernetes agentic standards? Because the paper's not focusing on MCP per se, it's more, best practices around containerization in the context of agentic.
Yep, makes sense.
And yeah, anyone's welcome to obviously suggest improvements or add content. It'd be good to sort of get a perspective there because it's certainly a domain which, at least from what I'm seeing, with many different teams trying to build agents, everyone's sort of shooting in different directions. Unless you build some form of standardization, it's going to be the Wild West in terms of federation and trying to work between companies, between departments, between organizations. So I think us, at least having a level of understanding around what the best practices are here, team, would certainly be helpful in terms of people, setting the right footing in terms of what they're building.
What I'm interested, yeah. So sorry, someone tried to say something.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, can we like flip it, like just an idea, like what is today not, so if you take agents and put them on Kubernetes, like if we do this exercise, what is not possible today that agents or AI systems would need to be built, for example, on Kubernetes? So like flip the coin a little bit and say like we know Kubernetes treats workloads, like is agentic just another workload? Why is it not, if it's not? And why is it so special, and what do we need to do about it? I guess it would be an interesting discussion. I've seen a lot of questions around that because you can do a lot of things for agents. Yeah.
So that sort of links back to scheduling, right? In a way, because it's really the HPC use cases which were problematic, and that's because you're running an LLM or you're running something which really requires a huge amount of compute for training. If you've got if we're looking at agent architectures, they don't necessarily need to be running an LLM. They could be calling that service on a back end from anywhere, right? So your agents can be 10 lines of code running in a container to, extremely elaborate multi-pod systems over a service mesh or even between companies with some form of federation. So I think there's certainly a lot of options out there. I guess what's I'm seeing out there that is pending clear definition is, what are the best practices around standards for those sorts of interactions beyond MCP, ACP, A to A, and everything else. If you look at the best practices for microservice generation, you've got things like information hiding. But then how does that look in the context of common data stores like RAG, or contexts of event-driven buses like Kafka that may sit in the middle. So it's a big problem space, and I think it'd be good to at least sort of look at what we from our combined cloud native experience feel is the right direction for these sorts of deployments. So that's sort of what I feel is missing.
I guess what I'm saying is like, why does this need to be different? And so like, I think you mentioned a couple examples. You mentioned scheduling for LLMs because the large that we know this problem. We've been writing a paper about that. But like, if we kind of like heat map on these areas where they need to be different, why would they need to be different than the status quo? Like, why? Like, just playing the devil advocates. Why can't we just treat agents as cloud native workloads as is using the standard tooling? Then like that basically gets us to here are the problems that we actually like have today with these things, and then let's focus on like building for these gaps, right? So this is like versus like, we know microservices, but we were just talking about microservices and we want to build that for agents. So if you flip the coin a little bit and think about what is not possible or what is possible today that wouldn't be feasible for this new type of workloads that we're getting. Yeah, I would say models are special, like large language models. We've been covering that for a while.
Sure.
Agents, as you've mentioned, like their abstraction, like you can point to a backend service. They're not necessarily the LLM, but LLM is the brain, the engine. So what is special about those things that forces us to not treat them as just cloud native workloads?
No, that makes sense. So look at the white space around, what are they doing differently and how that should be addressed from a best practice perspective. That makes sense.
Exactly.
All right. Well, yeah, I've heard of some conversations on how RAG is actually changing now. Maybe it's not as relevant because you have things like MCP. So with MCP, you can connect to all these different data sources, right? And then you just talk to them directly. You don't need to have data in a vector database, right? So you can just connect to like an external data source and get everything that you want to feed into a model, right? Like a language model.
So I have opinions about that, but I think yes, you need both. You need real-time retrieval to talk to APIs, and you need static retrieval or like via indexes and semantic similarity and similarity searches and so on. So all of these things are becoming available as tools to agents. So basically, RAG is a tool, or static retrieval is a tool, or dynamic retrieval to call it external APIs. So MCP made it easier for people to hook into these existing concepts, but RAG still there. Like how do I use it in the context of an agentic workflow, for example, is what's becoming new. So basically, MCP is just an AI wrapper for tools that helps the discoverability, but doesn't change what the tool is actually doing. If the tool is RAG, you still need retrieval, or like depending on the type of the documents. But yeah, that's a large topic. So if we go back to like the cloud native aspect of it, what do we need to do differently? Because if you think about RAG, like there's a database, there's an application, there's a set of APIs that you call to the database, to models, to whatever. Why does this need to be different? What needs to be different about it, and so on is an interesting pace of like you configure that you think about cloud native in general. Because like the hypothesis, some people have this hypothesis. Well, there's not really much different, but I want to invalidate that hypothesis. So how do I invalidate that hypothesis? Is something that people are looking to kind of like dig deeper onto.
Great, sounds good. Well, any other items? If not, then we can meet next time. So we have another meeting in 2 weeks, and so if you have any other agenda items, yeah, feel free to add them here for now. So I don't know what's going to happen with the new structure in a couple of weeks, but for now we could just add the agenda items.
Do we have action items, Ricardo, for this meeting? Like, do we know who's doing what, when, or?
We don't at this point. So would you like to assign some of these to some folks?
I think we talked about a couple of things. I think Roland mentioned he will get some time on the scheduling paper. Maybe we can assign him on this one because he already said that. And for the sustainable AI white paper, I think that for now I'll try to find some time, but I don't promise to do anything this week. But you can put my name there to kind of like
I can follow up on the security one. I can reach out to Deep. He works with Cisco too. So let me touch base with him and understand what's pending.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we all need to keep in mind like that length of the paper, because I know this is something that will come up in the TOC and will come up as a I would say a potential change for how we write things. So if we have a chance to kind of like rethink that also, that would be great.
Anyone want to take a look at the semantic conventions or for hotel? No, then it's fine.
So you're going to check on that internally with your colleague, and I can reach out to Severin, right, Ricardo?
Sounds good. So great. Awesome. Anybody else? One last, going once, twice. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining, and yeah, well, let's keep in touch. Let's keep the conversation in the Slack channel, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Just before we go, did we know where we got to with the MCP update? Because I kind of got kicked out of the building as that went on, so I just wanted to double check what the last conclusion on that was. There any actions for anyone, or is there something that I can help with, or myself and Oz? Because I know I was put it in the CNCF channel about trying to figure out an answer to the MCP stuff in a Kubernetes context.
Yeah, so if you look at the 2.12 issue with tag runtime, there's a discussion there. Some folks shared some documents of things that we're working on, but generally I would say the consensus so far is finding a place to host that reference implementation for the Kubernetes MCP as an MVP, and then moving on to other cloud native categories. That would be the TLDR.
Cool.
Yeah, Chris, feel free to follow up with this, and yeah, so we have a lot of stuff going on, right? So and then so we need folks to kind of just go and take ownership of these different areas.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Cheers.
Have a nice weekend. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.